Most people look at this and see a premium piece of athletic gear.
They see a status symbol. They see a promise that their purchase is restoring the planet. But if you look past the marketing, you'll find the reality of things. In fact, you'll find the company's carbon footprint that hasn't shrunk and has only gotten bigger. In fact, even doubled.
You'll also find a brewing investigation up north in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and a supply chain still running on the very fossil fuels it claims to be fighting. This isn't earth-friendly fabric. It's an antagonistic piece of plastic. The marketing tells you one thing, and the chemistry will tell you another. I'm Student Y, and we'll be tracing the elements of the Lululemon paradox. Oh, this is pretty good.
In 2020, Lululemon released their first official impact agenda, which is a 42-page document highlighting their goals as a company, using these three main taglines.
Be human, be well, and be planet.
In all honesty, it's a powerful statement. It's a type of promise that justifies paying $120 for a pair of yoga pants. Because with that statement, it doesn't feel like you're buying any normal pair of yoga pants. It feels like you're helping save the planet. But while the marketing team made these slogans, the industry was moving in a different direction. So fast forward to 2024, a complaint was filed in Florida by one Amandeep Gayani and a group of consumers who felt they had been sold a truth that never existed in the first place. They called out what the Be Planet tagline and the bigger sustainable framework that Lululemon set for what it really stood for. A greenwashing smokescreen made to trick the consumers into thinking they were buying something that helped planet Earth.
They call that the hypocrisy. How can you be well or be human or be planet when your manufacturing process is doubling its carbon footprint and being one of the many companies flooding the world with microplastics?
But in February of 2025, the case hit a wall. The lawsuit was dismissed by Judge Beth Bloom, not because Lululemon proved their claims were true, but because of a legal technicality called standing. To explain this, you see, to sue a company for a lie, you must prove that the lie specifically caused you a concrete injury. The plaintiffs argued that they paid a premium price because they thought they were helping the planet. The judge didn't buy it. She ruled that their claims were too vague and conclusory. Essentially, the leggings themselves weren't defective and they worked as intended. The plaintiffs couldn't prove they lost money just because the marketing felt good. Lululemon didn't win because they were truly green. They won because the law decided that a broken promise to the planet isn't the same things as a broken product in your gym bag. And I get that. So Lululemon walked away in Florida. But is that the end of our story? That legal wall in Florida sure may have stopped that case, but that parade never stopped moving. We'll be going north of the border into Canada, which serves as the home country of Lululemon. Also in 2024, a Canadian environmental organization called Stand Earth formally filed a 39-page application. Instead of just saying that the marketing was misleading, they brought the receipts. They pointed out that while Lululemons were draped in nature and sustainability, their supply chain was still powered by coal and fossil fuel. In fact, they also pointed out that Lululemon's climate pollution had increased by 100% since they started us telling to be planet. In 5 years, it doubled. They sent the application to the Competition Bureau of Canada, and here's why that matters. Unlike the private courtroom in Florida, the Bureau doesn't need to prove an individual's wallet was injured. They only need to prove that the public was deceived. So in May of 2024, the Bureau officially opened a Section 10 inquiry into Lululemon. This turned into a formal federal investigation into Be Planet and Lululemon as a whole, and if they're truly pushing towards sustainability. If they find Lululemon's marketing was false or misleading, the law allows for a fine for up to $10 million for a first offense or 3% of their global gross revenue. For a company that cleared over $11 billion last year, that's a $330 million check. To prove that in perspective for the average Winnipegger, or if you just really like garlic bread like me, at $5 a loaf, that is 66 million loaves of garlic bread. You could give every single person in the city, from Riverbend to St. Vital, enough garlic bread to eat 3 meals a day for a month. And you'd still have enough left to carb load the entire province of Manitoba. That's not just a fine, that's a legendary amount of bread. And it's the price Lululemon might pay for their B Planet paradox. Lululemon says they are confident that the Bureau's review will support them and that they point to their impact agenda as proof of their progress. But while the lawyers in Ottawa argue over the little legal definition of misleading, we need to look at something that doesn't have a legal team. If you zoom in past the soft touch finish and the four-way stretch, you find the one thing Lululemon didn't want us to see. This isn't a restorative product, it's a high-performance plastic entrapment. Over 60% of Lululemon's products are made of synthetic fibers, mostly polyester and nylon, and despite the B Planet marketing, most of that polyester is virgin polyester. That's just a fancy term for new plastic, which is just freshly pumped from the earth. To get to the truth, we must follow the carbon and we must follow the oil. And the trail leads us straight to a chemical bond that's designed to never die. So, if you look at the tag on a pair of Align leggings, it'll tell you that they're made of Nulu fabric. And it sounds soft, it sounds organic, it sounds like something that belongs in nature. But Nulu is just a marketing name for a blend of nylon and elastane, exactly 81% nylon and 19 elastane. And elastane is also known as spandex. And to trace those elements back to their source, you don't find a forest or a field, you find a refinery. Most of the polyester Lululemon uses is polyethylene terephthalate, or PET. It's the same chemical structure as the disposable water bottles plastic. To make it, you take ethylene glycol and terephthalic acid, both derived from crude oil and natural gases, and you link them into a polymer chain. This is the element Lululemon doesn't want to talk about. These carbon and hydrogen bonds are incredibly strong, and they're designed to be durable, sweat-wicking, and flexible. But they're also designed to be immortal. When Lululemon says they want to restore a healthy planet, they're fighting against the very chemistry of their product, because every time you wash these B Planet leggings, the friction causes the plastic to break. Millions of tiny microplastics, like the ones I have in this tube, shards of synthetic carbon break off and slide down to the drain with every single wash. These fibers are too small for most municipal water treatment plants to catch. They aren't stopped by filters, they're carried by the current. They head straight into our local rivers, and then they spread all into our waterways and bodies of water, and eventually end up in the open ocean. This isn't just a Canadian problem or an American problem, it's a planetary leak. Every time you toss your gear into the wash, a hidden process begins. According to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the washing of synthetic textiles releases around 500,000 tons of plastic microfibers into the ocean every single year. To wrap your head around that number, that is equivalent of taking 50 billion plastic bottles, putting them through a giant industrial shredder, and dumping the remains directly into the sea. And here's the paradox. Lululemon's marketing tells you by wearing these clothes, you're restoring a healthy planet, but the very act of cleaning their product releases the antagonistic plastic into the food chain. It's a cycle of pollution that starts in an oil well, passes through an oil-powered factory, and ends in the very ecosystems Lululemon claims to be protecting. The B Planet promise doesn't stop at the checkout counter, it dissolves in your laundry. It's a cycle of pollution that starts at an oil well and ends in the food chain. And it all starts with a $120 sustainable purchase. The microplastics in your laundry are only half of the paradox. To see where the other half comes from, we have to look at the B Planet origin story. Lululemon doesn't own their factories, they outsource. And according to their own disclosure, which is the April 2025 supplier list, a lot of the factories they outsource are in Asia, with some of the countries being China, Cambodia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, with some countries in other continents like Egypt and Africa. While the marketing team was filming ads about health, their supply chains are drawing some power from some of the dirtiest fossil fuel plants on Earth. This is why, despite every sustainable promise, their absolute climate pollution shot up by 100% between 2020 and 2023. They didn't grow greener, they just grew bigger, and they brought the coal smoke with them. This is the element that ties it all together. From the carbon pumped out of an oil well for the virgin polyester, to the carbon burned in a Chinese factory, to the carbon shards shredding in your wash, It isn't a cycle of wellness, it's a cycle of extraction. The Competition Bureau of Canada is still investigating. Maybe they'll hit Lululemon with that $333 million fine. Maybe they'll find a way to make Bee Planet more than just a slogan. But for us, the verdict is already in the chemistry. You can't be Bee Planet while doubling your smoke. You can't be well while flooding the ocean with 50 billion bottles worth of plastic. And you can't be human if you're not being honest. So the next time you see the red logo of Lululemon, just remember, the marketing will tell you one thing, the chemistry tell you another. But Lululemon isn't the only one doing this. There's many more out there spreading their own lies in this ocean we call society. While we are worried about the plastics in our leggings, there's a different kind of element building up in our food chain. A chemical shadow that doesn't just sit in the ocean, it sits everywhere. They call them QACs. Then your disinfectants, your soaps, and your skincare. Next time, we're going behind the barn door to see what happens when clean becomes toxic. We're tracing the elements of the antibacterial paradox. Don't go away.